Today, we are meeting with Johannes Schartau.
Thank you so much for having me.
You spoke a lot about the difference between project and product. Can you share a little bit what is the key difference between the two?
Yes, absolutely. And I just want to make sure that so I have a colleague, his name is Philip Pelka, and we kind of trying to spread the message a bit. I just want to be very clear that we're often painting a bit of a black and white picture to illustrate a point, and we know that there's space in between. So the way we explain it is that most often we find organizations use the project vehicle to deliver some kind of value, which essentially is characterized by the fact you have a very clear start and end date. Like I said before, what happens usually is that you kind of in the beginning, since you need budget or like you need funding for this project, you need to explain to people what you're going to deliver. And at that point, implicitly or explicitly, scope gets fixed. And it's often people kind of like, we're agile, we're really flexible. But like I said, when you ask, what is it that you're iterating on? It's usually not on the basic assumptions of the project as you set out. It's often more like, and I don't want to be mean, but it's really what I see that it's often more about like the acceptance of internal stakeholders, and then more trivial things like maybe a bit of the user interface or something like, I think it's prettier if you move it to this way, but not like the really fundamental questions. Those are usually fixed. To me, the main difference is that with a product approach is, first of all, that we kind of assume that this is going to run for an indefinite amount of time. So we don't know, like if it doesn't make sense anymore, we could kill it in two weeks, but it could also be running for at least 2 decades. That's also possible. So that's a major difference where we like the time horizon is not fixed anyway. It's just kind of like, okay, let's assume this is going to run for a long time. And then I think what we want to do is to kind of move our product along a product life cycle. So we kind of start out with very basic assumptions, very limited amount of work that we put in and very limited funding, and get in touch with users and market. And then we want to verify that the thing that we have in mind, usually like what we're trying to verify first, is that the opportunity or the problem that we want to solve is actually present and people care about it enough. And then you might, afterwards you want to try different kind of solutions, and then you want to make sure that at some point you find something like a product market fit, and then drive your product towards maturity, and try to keep it there for as long as possible. But you just don't know, since you cannot predict how people are going to behave. You don't know how long this is going to take. And I think this really works so well with Agile because so Scrum is being much more explicit about this now with the product goal, for example, that they kind of say you have a longer term objective that you're trying to achieve. And when you achieve it, then you do the next thing, but you only, strive towards something specific. So there's like a container above the sprints that gives you a bit more direction. And I think this aligns very well with like a product thinking kind of style. And also like the agile development practices really support this, because things like, extreme programming and refactoring things and continuous deployment, they are really based on this whole understanding of, we can deliver anytime. We need to maintain this for an unforeseeable amount of time. And so in my opinion, this is what people should keep in mind when they start using Agile Scrum, that it like pay attention to the environment. What are we, what's the vehicle outside of our sprints that kind of contains our work, and what are we iterating on, right? Is it actually possible to iterate on the most basic of assumptions and question these and then actually adapt to the insights that you get? Or is it just like within this kind of fixed environment, are we just iterating on like how, like we can see the finish line, how far are we away from this? And yeah, I care about this very much because I think it's much more helpful. So you can also like, people often ask like, why can't projects not be flexible? And in some way, So what I sometimes see is like this hybrid thing where people kind of set out and then they do sprints and then they check. But like I said, it's mostly with internal people. It's not on the fundamental questions, and that's why I think there's a gray area, but like real strong product thinking is, in my opinion, most conducive to agile ways of working.
It seems that out there in the market, there are like two different, let's say, ways of thinking. One is agile. The other one is product management, product thinking. And and people, organization, they embrace one or the other, thinking they are really two different things, two separate things. And it seems like something is missing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And that is something that I noticed as well. And I was just baffled by it. It seems like the product company delegates agile to this kind of delivery role, right? Where it's just like, okay, once you have, let's say, like a bit of maturity in your product and you kind of want to just push some features into your product, then you use agile. And in the agile space, in my experience, is mostly oblivious to that product side, where it's kind of defined, like even if you're not using Scrum, but the term product owner is being established as like an industry standard. Like you used to have project managers, now we have lots of product owners. And it's
And
but
sometimes the product owner acts as the project manager, right? When it's not really a new way of thinking.
yeah, exactly. So just like kind of paint the fence in a different color kind of thing. But even if people are really willing to spend a bit more time on this, it's um, in my opinion, a product owner needs really good product management skills. And as some people kind of say, product owner is kind of the side of the product owner that looks at inside the Scrum framework, and I think there's something to this. So when I work with product owners, I really want to kind of expand their mind and kind of show that. I mean, so the Scrum Guide is just, I love the Scrum Guide, I have to say, because it's so precise, but it's also like very open and omits quite a bit of things. And so when it's just about, like the description of like maximizing the value of the product, it's very short and concise, but what does that mean and how does it manifest? And I think that's where the whole product topic kind of comes in, and where people need more skills than just kind of like, hey, you talk to stakeholders and you show up in a review, or like you plan the sprints. I mean, that deep question of when do you actually know that your product is working well and that you're maximizing that value? I think that's the whole cosmos that people often don't explore, and where we don't offer enough skills for these people to be really effective. And just questions like, how do you know you're building the right thing? How do you prioritize? What is value? How do you align with other people on that value concept? And how do you make the most of this, agile apparatus, like where we can actually deliver value? So technically we're able to do that, but how do we use it best so that we don't just put something into this really powerful machine, but it doesn't go anywhere? And so how can we make sure that we use this to really test the right things and really become effective, and create that value that everybody keeps talking about? And I think these product management skills are absolutely essential. And I would see, and like I said before, I really like your book because to me it's like at the intersection of these two topics, and I would like to see so much more of this, where we bridge that gap a bit and just give people the chance to extend their knowledge and become more effective product owners.
So in a sense, product owners, product manager need to embrace an agile mindset, and vice versa. Through agility, it doesn't really work without a good product management, a good product thinking. Right? That's how we bring them together.
Yeah, that's what I think. And maybe the other thing we could do is to just the product management community, just show them ways of using Agile and Scrum so effectively, and not just simply deliver features. But I mean, I've used Scrum in ways that other people had no idea that it could be used, and to me, it was just really obvious. I mean, I've been working with gaming companies for a while, for example, and just like we use Scrum to test features with our audience before even building or writing code, just like mocking up PowerPoint presentations. And it was so fascinating because within 1 week, you would get the clear indication that people hated something. And that was all within a Scrum environment where you could also do some or most of the product discovery techniques. And I feel like people don't understand how much leeway they have, how many opportunities they have to adapt Scrum to something that they need. You know, in our session when we met at the Scrum gathering, for example, we showed some examples of like a product backlog. It's not defined what a product backlog item is. It could be a question, for example, just a question that you want to answer, or like in a review, in my opinion, it's not like you demo a product and then people go like, okay, that's good. But like my ideal version is that during the sprint, we have released multiple times into production. And now we look at live product data and kind of make sense of that. And that informs our next sprint. So just like as an example of what that could look like to be like more effective with this product mindset, in a way that, you know, use Scrum in a way that people often don't understand, because it's often used in this kind of project environment where it's just about like checking the box, and there were requirements and we ship those requirements, but that's not what it has to be. And I just want to offer people other options, and just make them understand that you have a lot of, since Scrum is underspecified in a lot of way, you have so many options of using different approaches. And I just hope people kind of realize this, and then we can bridge that gap so that, you know, Agile comes out of this delivery kind of, you know, this role that it's been assigned, and that people on the Agile side understand more of that product side.